You can see that someone picked this because of the marks, obviously like a design feature. So it's really cool. Do you want to hold it?
Yeah.
It feels amazing.
Alice is showing me a hand axe. So, by no means is her life outside of running not interesting.
There you go.
Wow.
So yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's a nice one. You can tell it's hand axe because you can fit it in your hand. It sounds daft, but it's always...
Oh, as in you just hold it like that?
You can tell if you're not sure if it's a rock or a hand axe, you put it in your hand and you can get the sense of feeling it. Like it's designed to be held, and that's how you know.
To bash someone with.
To bash someone with. Oh, probably an animal.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay.
Shout out.
Hello and welcome to the Great Outrunning Podcast, episode 2, where I'll be talking to Alice Kershaw. Alice finished second in this year's Montaigne Spine Challenger, and in this conversation we talk about her race experience, what it's like to take on such a big challenge, and she also shares a few tips. There is a video version of this podcast on YouTube, however we didn't turn the cameras on until about 4 minutes in. Obviously I didn't want to turn up on her doorstep with a camera in her face. No matter where you're listening from, please make sure to subscribe or follow. If possible, leave a review, as it really helps the podcast get heard by more people. So without further ado, let's go further. Here we go. Just arrived outside Alice's house. I'm going to go knock on the door and see how she is after her fabulous second place at the Montaigne Spine Challenger 2023. Hello.
Come on in.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Would you like a cup of tea or anything?
I'd love a cup of tea.
Excellent. Right, do you want to come back?
So while Alice makes a cup of tea, I'll describe this living room to you because, well, not precise detail, but there's a few medals on the wall, and there's a Punk Panther Ultramarathons medal hanger here. It's empty, but I'm guessing they're somewhere else. Here we go. They're all down here, and we'll get onto that later when we talk about the marathon she's done. There's a Hardmoors 55 medal and a Punk Panther first female trophy. There's another first female trophy here. Another Punk Panther medal. And of course, 2022 female winner of the Spine Sprint. I didn't know that. This is my research section. We're also seeing a lot of OS maps on the bookshelves as well. Now, I first met Alice from my lockdown challenges when I did the first virtual, and she actually won a trophy off me. Can you remember what your trophy was?
Yeah.
From me?
Yeah, I've got it in the other room, actually.
Oh, brilliant. Why is it not on display with all your others?
Because they're in the other room.
Right. Is there a trophy room?
No, because that would make me a twat. But it's above where my running machine is, so I can, at the point where I'm thinking, I don't want to go on the treadmill, I have to have a look at it.
Nice.
So how long have you been doing a podcast for?
This is the second episode.
Excellent.
So I've no idea what I'm doing. I've done
Fab.
barely any research whatsoever, but when I found out someone I knew had done the Spine Challenger and come second, I thought, right, you're coming in my poddy.
That's the thing, you've got to make the most of it. Who do you know? Get it out there.
Who do you know?
Apparently the artist, you just practice doing it.
I remember Dave, who's did the podcast with me, he said, oh, Richard Asquith's just released a new book. I'm going to message his people.
Excellent.
And I thought, he's not going to get back to us on a one episode old podcast, and he comes back going, yeah, apparently he's busy.
Next time he'll regret it.
Yeah. The thing is, everyone's spoken to Richard Asquith. No one's spoken to Alice Kershaw.
Well, you know what? I was on a podcast about digital transformation and the Wildlife Trust, which is what I do in my day-to-day life. So do look out for that one if you want to hear about beaver tracking.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of quality content you can get elsewhere though. So.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the cross content, isn't it?
Exactly. I should have worn. I was going to say I should have worn a better fleece, but actually this is my jazziest.
This is the best fleece I can imagine. Should
have worn my Wildlife Trust one.
Hang on, what's happened here? Right, this is as close as we're getting because the plug is. This is a very cheap Amazon thing, so obviously the cord line is really short.
I have got an extension cable.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine.
Lovely to see you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome to my house.
Take my hat
This
off.
is definitely proving the point at which I should have put the pictures up that are meant to go there, which are down here.
Oh well, you'll learn. I can superimpose graphics on there.
Yeah, just put something there that makes it look
I've got
like
a logo there. Should be perfect. I'm going to move that. Oh, that's going to be sounding horrible in there. I'll move that to the floor.
Excellent.
Just pop that spoon there if that's okay.
Yeah.
I might annoy some people. Right, so I've done very little research on you.
Excellent.
Which is great for any layman listening so basically you can introduce yourself and your running history.
Excellent. Well, yeah, so I'm Alice Kershaw. I'm used to introducing myself for what I do for work, I realise, as I start saying that. So I work for the Wildlife Trusts, but that is irrelevant to my running. And I've been running ultras since 2019, so not that long. And I used to hate running at school because it was terrible. But I'm from the South Lakes, so I'm used to running in kind of muddy places, boggy places, pointy places, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. I have run the Windermere Marathon, but marathons aren't really my thing. I prefer to go longer, slower, more adventurous.
Yeah. It's a strange distance, isn't it? 26 miles.
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed doing it. I did it with my dad and it was really good fun, but it's not necessarily for me. I quite like being able to go a bit slower and have more snacks, which is definitely true, but I feel it should be a better kind of answer there. But, have a bit more, go further, really get into the landscape. That's something I really like to do. I have taken part in quite a lot of Punk Panther marathons, and ultra marathons, and I'm pretty sure that one of those was the first one I won, and I'm not entirely sure which one it was, but I definitely did well in one of their races, and then suddenly got a thing where I was like, oh, actually, this is something that I really enjoy doing, but maybe I'm actually okay at it, which is not something, I'm not a naturally kind of sporty person necessarily, so it was quite a cool thing to kind of find out. So I've not won loads, I would say, but I've done quite well in some of theirs and some other races where the weather's been terrible and they've been fairly bad conditions underfoot. That tends to be the thing that works quite well for me.
So do you think that's putting other people off and then...
I don't know, they're just, I I often do races with a whole group of other people who are also, brilliant. So it's it's definitely not just me, but it's something I like and I'm really familiar with. I like being out in bad weather, I like being out in all conditions, so it's something I'm fairly aware of. Yeah.
It's like me, I've become very soft recently. I've been like, it's raining. Nah, it's fine.
Oh, you're missing out.
I know, it's terrible. So you say that you're not sporty, you're not competitive, or you're not. Has that changed as things have become more within reach?
I
things
suppose
like that.
I do it because I really enjoy the adventure and I enjoy the thing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that I'm going out going, that's something that I think I could do really well at. That doesn't tend to be the reason. And I would say, especially for the Spine Challenger, I've always taken the run your own race.
Yeah.
That's really, really critical. I have done it, and I've done it once where I went out and I was like, you know what, I'm going to smash this. I'm going to absolutely go for it.
Right.
And I remember it really vividly because it was a race in which I didn't really talk to anyone. I didn't take any photos as I was going round. I got to the end and I was like, and I did quite well in it. I did do well, and but I got to the end and thought I really didn't enjoy that. That was rubbish, So it was one of those things where I think I'd much rather go around, talk to people, talk to volunteers, look at the views, take some ridiculous photos, that kind of thing, and get a real sense of it. And if I do well and do that, happy days. Yeah. But actually, having tried the competitive side, it doesn't give me the joy that I want in what I'm actually doing. Yeah.
So it's more of a natural. It's more of a natural, your own time progression.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I think I've got more confident in what I'm prepared to sign up for, but I haven't necessarily got more competitive about it.
Yeah, because it's pretty high up the list of challenging things, the Spine Challenger. I did the summer sprint.
Oh, excellent. How'd you find it?
I found it, it felt like it was okay. The weather was really, it was hot and it was, but I couldn't even begin to imagine what it'd be like in the conditions that you've done the winter spine in because of all the gear. keeping track of all the gear, knowing where everything is, having everything supplied. You're doing the Challenger in, is it about 2 days?
Yeah, so I did it in just under 38 hours.
That's
so
right, yeah.
It was kind of all through one night and then through some of the next night, basically.
So I'd imagine it's a race. If you stop, it's a bit of a race to stay warm.
Yeah.
You need to get something out of your bag.
Yeah, I mean, if effectively for something to be in the middle bit of my bag, it might as well not exist at certain points. So I made sure I had a bag with lots of pockets because that's definitely quite critical. But it's interesting you say that because I did the winter sprint the year before, and I distinctly remember I was running with a chap called Jason, and we were running off Studley Pike and just kind of going, oh, we're nearly finished. And we both talked to each other and just kind of went, I cannot imagine doing another 60 miles. How ridiculous. God almighty, that'd be terrible. And then obviously 2 weeks later the stuff opens up and you're like, oh, but could I have done another 60 miles?
My next question was, like, how long after that race?
Long enough that you get it into the like type 2 fun, where you're like, because it was, I mean, shout out to it. It is a phenomenal experience, but I definitely came off the spine sprint thinking, that's it. I'll stick to shorter ultras. That, you know, can't imagine doing any longer. And then you just get that little bit of curiosity in your brain where you're like, but what's after Hebden? I'm kind of interested to see what the next bit of the route is like.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got me a bit intrigued. And I thought, well, why the hell not, to be honest? You know, with everything that's gone on over the last few years, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so you might as well sign up.
I was listening to a podcast just on my way here, and they were talking about the way that races have been going in America, albeit, but like they've said, like people have got more of a carpe diem attitude towards entries, and there's been a lot more late entries going on in races and stuff, and things are starting to pick up again.
No, interesting.
And I think that's the way a lot of ultra runners are thinking now. They're like, well, I used to say that I was going to do the Bob Graham in like 4 years' time, but now I'm just going to say I'm going to do it next year. Or
well, exactly. I mean, you know, you never know. And you kind of mentioned kit as well, and I quite enjoyed, you know, I had a lot of the kit already, so it was something kind of confidence boosting about, like, you know, I probably need a better sleeping bag because the one I've got that I would use, I did some mountain leader training a couple of years ago, and my sleeping bag for that is massive, and as soon as you start like putting stuff into your bag and thinking I've got to run with this, you start to kind of trim it down a bit more. But that is, you know, that was also quite confidence boosting, where I was like, I do have a lot of this stuff, so I'm not kind of starting from scratch, which gives you a bit of a sense of confidence about it.
Yeah. I remember doing the sprint, there was lots of things on the kit list that were very, very unnecessary for that particular day, but they were on the kit list, and I understand why. You know, they're like, this is a race to prepare you for the Challenger, or it's to prepare you for the winter spine. And I remember like joking with this guy, you know, like we sort of sat down and had the soup at the end in Hebden, and the guy just said, well, I'm glad I brought my knife. You know?
Honestly, no, I've used the knife. I would say,
I've used the knife. That
stuff comes in handy. I have used the goggles. I've used the knife. I mean, you know, you never know when you're going to need something out of the kit list. I'm a big fan. I put extra stuff in. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I can absolutely see needing that. So as much as I joke, because, you know, it might as well be invisible, the other thing is I will happily take it out and use it.
Yeah.
Although I got to the end of the Challenger and realised I had used 11 pairs of gloves, which is possibly too many gloves.
You'd soaked them all through?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just kept stuffing them in my pack, and I was I thought it was quite a lot, and then when I was unpacking, I was like, wow, these just keep going. So yeah, maybe not that many gloves, but definitely the full kit is something I think I can see why it's there, as much as I utterly resented it.
If you ever get to an ultra race and you found that you've missed something out, Alice might be the one to talk to if you see her on the start line. Yeah,
it's that thing of like, it was quite bad actually, because and a couple of days before I kept walking past my drop bag and my bag and just kind of going, I'll just put this in. Maybe just one. I've got one set of spare batteries, but what if they go? And then throwing another one in, and then I was kind of like, okay, this is ridiculous. It was probably somewhere I could improve it.
So there's like, I mean, head torches is something. How many head torches did you have?
So I had 2 head torches.
Okay, but loads of batteries.
Loads of batteries, obviously.
Yeah.
So I had one of them was the what's it called? The Phoenix one that's got a lithium battery, and that lasted all the first night. It was brilliant.
Wow.
And I had a change out battery for that, but then I also had a head torch with spare batteries, because I learnt this on the sprint, which is if your battery goes, you need a head torch to see the other head torch.
Of course.
Which is one of those things where, like, you don't really think about it until you're trying to change batteries in the dark. And then you're like, oh yeah, So you need one to do the other one. But yeah, so I had 2 sets of that, but actually I could have got by probably with just one for that race, but better safe than sorry.
Wow. I mean, they're long nights. The winter
Yeah.
nights, how long are they? It must be
About 16 hours.
16 versus 6. Yeah, probably more. Yeah, 16. So there's only 8 hours of daylight or less than?
Yeah, it's not a lot of daylight. It is
Yeah.
definitely got to be comfortable running in the dark on some of that.
Yeah, and it was only last week, but
Yeah.
I've noticed now in, almost the last weekend of January that it's getting lighter at night.
Yeah.
But late December and early January, it's the worst, isn't it?
It's as dark as it's going to get, and you do get that slight it's slightly lighter than the darkest day, but I'm not sure that that's doing.
I feel positive every evening.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
It's like 5:30 and I can still sort of see,
It's great, isn't it? Yeah, and in the morning you're like, it's coming towards us, soon it'll be light. But yeah, definitely wasn't. So got to experience the full darkness.
Yeah. So can you talk us through when you started, what your interactions were with some of the other races as well?
Yeah. In fact,
because the other guy I'm speaking
I've
to...
written some notes.
Oh, nice.
So
Right.
I think they fell off the side.
Oh, the ones I've just knocked off.
Thank you. Just so I can remember people's names.
Well, I can't read your writing anyway.
No one can read my writing, it's appalling. But yeah, sorry, carry on. You were going to ask about interactions with other people.
Interactions with other people. Did the sprint come past you? Because when I did the summer sprint, we ran past the Challenger runners.
Yeah.
Did that happen in the winter race?
I was quite conscious of the fact that, because we were the first race off, that was very much a possibility. Not that I know of. I did get some people go past. So the first of the mountain rescue, including Steph Dwyer, who was phenomenal, who actually won the women's mountain rescue challenger and smashed the record on that. And she ran past us up a hill on the way towards Top Withens, which was absolutely phenomenal. It was a genuine highlight. I've never seen anyone go that fast up a hill so cheerily in my entire life. So she overtook us, but no, not the sprint, and not... I had a slight concern about the front runners of the actual spine because they were going so much faster than we were. My original target was 48 hours, and I thought actually that's not unrealistic to have some people go past you, potentially. So at the start, we were kind of...
When you mean worry, was it more an excitement? Oh.
It was part excitement and part that'd be psychologically unpleasant right towards the end of a race to be overtaken by someone who started a day later.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about a few hours here.
No. So the full spine starts the next day.
Yeah.
But because they're going so fast, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. They might be getting to Hawes at the same time you're getting to Hawes. I just kind of thought, oh no. But yeah, so we kind of ran at the start. You kind of initial bit of everyone's far too excited, and you're kind of legging it towards.
Running up Jacob's Ladder.
Absolutely, that's when everyone's just heavy breathing.
Yeah.
Although it was nice to see some of the media team were up there, just to get those pictures of you gritting your teeth on Jacob's Ladder, which is obviously the first time you really start to think about what you're letting yourself in for. But then we kind of dibbled around a bit in those first bits, but there were a lot of stream crossings, so it was really, really valuable to have kind of people around.
Were
it's
they
best to be safe.
frozen or?
No, it was bog. It was pure bog.
Wow.
I've never seen it that damp. Given we're in Shipley, I run over kind of that area quite a bit between Edale, Hebden kind of area. The cloughs were up, the rivers were up. It was genuinely, I would have not felt totally comfortable crossing some of those if I hadn't been around lots of other people.
Yeah.
They were kind of knee deep, thigh deep, certain areas. So that was the point where I was with a couple of people, including Antonio, who I did quite a lot of the run with, who was phenomenal. He was excellent. He's done the full spine, he's done the spine challenger before, he had loads of great stories.
Yeah.
So that was really, really good. And so I was running with him, and he actually...
Shout out to Antonio, who I met at Ultra Trust Snowdonia a few years ago.
Everyone knows him. I was just going to say, everyone knows him. But
he must be a Cheviot expert as well.
Yes. Yeah. But he fell in one of the rivers. He's written about it in his blog. Which was a little bit terrifying to find out about. But I also want to give a shout out to Max Driscoll, who ended up dropping out but was really helpful crossing the rivers. He was great. He was kind of making sure that people were getting across and waiting for them, and he was obviously feeling horrible.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. But there was a lot of checking and stuff. So at that
a lot of teamwork early on, I guess.
Yeah, it was really important. It was nice because people were kind of running together for safety. Like we were encouraged to run together on that section in particular, and then later on, kind of.
So describe this area, this part.
So like Bleaklow, basically the bit that's
so fairly early on.
Yeah, fairly early on.
A couple of hours in.
Yeah, a couple of hours in, and it's kind of you go past the slabs, which hopefully I know a few people fell over on, but like they were fairly solid.
They are deceptive.
They're hideous.
I remember I went up to Kinder Scout with a friend in December a couple of years ago. And we were just chatting to each other, walking side by side, and he put 1 foot off the slab and he went right in, and it was snow covered.
Oh no!
So it went from white to black really quickly.
Oh, lovely!
Yeah. We just got out of the car. We parked at.
Oh my God!
We parked at. Is it Snake Pass there?
Oh yeah, it's
we
Snake
parked
Pass,
there
yeah.
and walked. We'd done about 500 meters.
Yeah,
and he was already soaked. And he was like, "I'm kind of wet now, but." I can't be bothered to go back to the car. We're only going out to Kinder just to see it, and it was beautiful, to see white out basically.
It is really stunning out there. Like it looks amazing. Like with the kind of the mosses and the grasses are all really kind of orange and purple, and like they look really beautiful. But it was about ankle deep water all the way there, and then when you hit Bleaklow and Black Hill and that kind of side, it's just endless peat bogs.
Yeah.
It's peat bogs. You're walking up what feels like a river. Then you're wading across what is actually a river, and then back to trying to find the path in like the endless kind of cut-offs of Bleaklow, and it was a bit relentless, I have to say. I think there was some probably solid 40-minute miles in there.
Wow. Oh.
Just trying to kind of get around. So that was where there was quite a lot of people, and then it kind of separated out a bit again after like Torside and kind of some of those kind of areas. Lado Rocks and all of that was also really kind of boggy, so kind of clumped together again, and then kind of gradually worked our way across the moors proper into Hebden checkpoint, which is where kind of you kind of catch up with people and you see people, and that was the only checkpoint on the route. There were mountain rescue kind of.
Did you not stop at the calf at the?
I didn't. Nikki's calf. No, I didn't actually this time. I thought about it, and then when I got there, I was actually just not quite feeling it, so I didn't. But I'd have on every recce. So,
right.
But yeah, it was. Waited basically to the first aid station.
And we're 40-something miles in.
Yeah, so it was about 47 miles in, although I did not check because I was trying not to hit the button on my watch that told me how far I had to go.
Yeah.
So
it's not quite halfway, right?
It is definitely not halfway. No. Top Withens is halfway, which is the ruined farmhouse that's above Hebden, which is apparently definitely not the inspiration for Wuthering Heights. There's a plaque on it that says it's not the inspiration for Wuthering Heights. So, which I love, because that's just brilliant. Most plaques tell you it is something, but they're like, no, stop asking.
Yeah, and Top Withens, I mean, I've never been there in good weather, I don't think. I think the best weather I experienced was maybe in October doing the Bronte Way Fell Race.
Oh, nice.
But it's always wet.
Yeah, it was that.
It feels like, you're on... With all the reeds and stuff, I've always thought of Top Withens as being on like a huge scalp. Just this huge...
Yeah, I will now.
This huge wet scalp in the middle of a shower or something.
It's definitely, it's one of those places where you can definitely see the Wuthering Heights vibe. It's definitely...
I can imagine this to look nice in a photo or on film, but in reality, it's muddy, wet and horrid. Yeah. Yeah,
it was quite something. Although it was great because it's got that little sheltered bit in it. So that was actually I felt irrationally excited about the fact that we were going to be briefly out of the rain, because we kind of, you get up there.
When you say sheltered, what do you mean? It's under...
So because the ruin itself, and then next to it, there is actually a little, almost a bothy type building. Which has got a kind of, the door seems to be open quite a lot, and you can just kind of sit in there, and it was lovely. It was really nice. You were suddenly like out of the wind, have a little sit, and then kind of carry on back down on our way kind of over some of the more kind of, I suppose, less scenic moors, but mainly because it's dark on the way that go over to kind of Lothersdale, which is where there's the Craven Tri Club have their little stall kind of tent set up. And then over kind of Pinhall, which is absolutely horrendous. So there's some quite... I don't like saying the moors are bleak, because actually I think they're really beautiful and I like spending time with them. In that weather at 2 a.m, they are a little bit bleak. Yeah. So.
Does it help? Do you see other Challenger runners in the distance, or
Yeah, you can see the red
behind
lights
you?
sometimes.
The red lights, yeah.
Which is nice, and you can sometimes see the torches behind. And you're kind of just aware there are a lot of people around, which is quite
Yeah.
nice. You don't feel like... Because I had someone...
At that point, were there many?
There are a few. I mean, I wasn't like checking the tracker, but I mean, leaving Hebden, there were definitely a few. You can see who's kind of left and who's in front of you. And then at Lothersdale, when I got in, there were quite a few people who were already there and like sat down with blankets and stuff. When I left... Because I was like, all right, I'm going to go. Anyone else going in 5 minutes? And there was everyone just kind of like sat there. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like,
As a volunteer brings you another like bowl of stew.
Exactly. They were lovely. It was great. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to go because the weather's not getting any better. That's what it's going to be. And so at that point, it was probably the most... Like, I was set off on my own then and was just kind of out on the hills on my own, which was actually fine. But I was a bit aware that there wasn't that many people. I came across... I think the next person I spoke to was in Gargrave, and that's... I don't know how far that is, but it was at least about 6 hours.
Right, yeah. I've got a bit of a black spot in after Withens to Gargrave and Horton.
I mean, that's pretty much what it feels like.
Right.
It's an accurate... Basically, It was a lot of moors that were kind of... Just felt like they were angled so that you just fall on your backside over and over again, and then a few farmers' fields. Like, I actually quite like it in the light. I'd wreck it.
Can you remember... Sorry, can you just remind me what there is after Withens? You've got like...
You've got Lothersdale and like Crowden.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, so I know that as well.
Yeah, so there's a reservoir.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it's kind of a reservoir bit that you kind of run around the reservoir.
It's quite hilly there.
It is. There are undulating, I would say. There's also Pinhore Beacon is on the way towards Gargrave, which is one of my least favourite places because a bit like some of the other areas on the route, it just feels like it's always windy. Like whatever side of the hill you're kind of on, you kind of go up it and it's windy. You think, oh, at least that'll drop when I get over the other side. And then for some reason it's windy going the other way as well. And it's just one of those where you just never... I never quite feel a sense of exhilaration at the top of it. I just feel like I want to get off it every time. So that one was fun.
And can you remember how many runners were left at this point? Because I did notice on the tracker that it seemed to take prisoners early on.
Yeah, I mean...
And then maybe not so... certain people got to a certain point and then it was okay for a lot of people later on.
Yeah, apparently 40% dropped out in the first 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know that. I was really trying not to know either where I was because I don't...
I'm sure you could understand why though.
I mean... Well, I made the error of reading
Not an empath.
I made the error of reading someone's blog of the year before, and they put in the stats there of they put the finishing percentages, and I'd gone, well, that's lower than I'd expected. I kind of thought it might be about 50%, but the year before it had been about the same as this one, which was I think it was like 43-44%. I'm not sure, but under 50% finished, and I kind of went, oh yeah, wish I didn't know that. So I was a bit aware as I was going that there were probably dropouts, and I knew because obviously like Max had dropped out because he'd been really under the weather, and I'd seen a few people stop and kind of just, especially at like Hebden, because you have the opportunity to drop out. I mean,
it's a safe place to
exactly.
Stop,
It makes a lot of sense. You can get back from there. So I can see why, but it was all serious reasons. I think that was what was quite interesting to see like firsthand. It wasn't like, I'm sure we've all been on ultras where you watch someone, you go, oh, I'm sure if you gave it 10 minutes, you'd be all right. Come on. And you get it, but you can see why.
Did you have any lifelines? Did you have a phone? Could you make a phone call?
I mean, you always have the tracker. You can always hit the button on the tracker, and it's the emergency button. That's it. You're out of the race, and they'll come and get you.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course you can. But you're also you're not hugely far from civilization at most points, and there are the mountain rescue around. So if you have to like self-eject from it, I don't know what the right word is.
That's fine.
You can do that. But it wasn't really well, like I say, if something happens that means you have to, people were definitely making the right call and doing that. People were it wasn't an easy decision, I don't think, for anyone who had to stop. That was really, really clear. They did not want to. They would rather keep going, and that is pretty impressive to see.
Did you have any close calls yourself?
Not really, actually. I think I was thinking about this. I think I was quite determined that it was all problems to be solved. So it was like, if this happens, then what do you do? Kind of thinking. The closest call of like, I'm not really enjoying this was probably up Penny Ghent.
Okay.
So that was in like because I was climbing up Pen y Ghent, having, you go down Francis Fell and you can see Pen y Ghent, which actually I've never experienced. It's always been clag up there. I don't think I've ever actually seen it in its whole totality. And so you're looking straight at it and you're like, oh my God. And
so it was nice for it to be light for that.
Well, nice, and you could just really, really see that front you're going to be climbing up. So, it's definitely the right way around, because you climb up the steep bit and run down the nice bit, so get it. But there was a bit where I was kind of on the second of the kind of steep bits, and I was wearing the rucksack was kind of pulling me backwards. And I was holding sticks, which isn't usually how I like to do any kind of scrambling. And there was just this moment, and I had to keep going backwards and forth to try and find the right steps on the route, even though I know it really well. It was just kind of slightly throwing me off. I think that was probably and it wasn't even anywhere near to kind of going, I'm going to throw in the towel or anything, but there was a point where I just kind of went, I'm not really enjoying this very much. And then I saw a small child go down the same bit, going, Mummy, I've just climbed the highest mountain I've ever climbed, or something like that. And I was like, oh, stop being such a whiny arse and get up this mountain.
Do you want to tell him to do the rest?
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, at the top of that, there was a guy who just went, so is this the first one of the 3 peaks you've done today? And I was like, yeah, it is actually. I was like, I'm only doing this one. And then afterwards I was like, I should maybe have said what I was actually doing.
You said, don't, if you must.
It's like, I just get to do the rest. I obviously just looked so knackered. You must have thought, she must have done all of them.
So with that in mind, how was the sort of support on the route? Was there not support? I mean,
self-supported.
No, I mean the spectators.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't loads. There was a few like in Malham, and it was quite funny when people, because you have the number on your back. And obviously, until the point where they see you're actually in a race, you're just like someone really tired doing like a day out. But yeah, people were great. It was really nice. There were lots of people would clap and they'd ask you about it and they'd be enthusiastic about the fact you were doing it, which was really cool.
Offer you a fruit pastel and you have to say no.
Yeah, no, nothing. I was trying to think. Yeah, no, I was mainly relying on the kind of mountain rescue stations and the aid stations. But yeah, no, there was lots of people who were just kind of cheering and enthusiastic. I don't think we're at the bit in the race. I think in the second half, when people do the full kind of spine, you get a lot more of the people going out there and kind of doing that kind of fruit pasteling. But
yeah, is that allowed though? Is that kind of thing allowed? Or?
If they do the same for everyone. So if someone is offering the same thing for everyone, that's fine.
Ah, okay. So if they come and meet a friend.
Yeah, exactly. So it is self-supported. I mean, you're not going to carry all that kit and then do a race in which someone could come and meet you. That would feel a bit,
Of course, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. But I'm sure everyone has, or a lot of people would have some friends and loved ones who might come see you.
They can wave at you.
But they know the score.
Yeah. So they can come and give you a wave. So my parents did see me in Horton for about 3 seconds and about a Malham for about 3 seconds. So, which I was like, this is very unexciting for them. Like my parents and my husband have crewed for me before, and they're a brilliant crew. Like shout out to them because they are absolutely they're so good. Yeah. So they're great. Yeah. Actually, you've seen them at the Backyard Ultra.
Oh, the Backyard.
Yeah. They've got a nice Volkswagen camper van. It's lovely. So I think it was quite hard for them actually. They couldn't do anything. There was nothing. You can't give me anything. You can't support me. You can't just cheer and that's it. So
unless you make this guy a cup of tea as well.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to make all 140 people.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and I appreciate they came and waved. But I was like, this isn't as entertaining as my races normally are.
And you're at the front end. You're sort of at the front end of this race, aren't you? 38 hours.
Yeah.
The limit of this race was?
60.
60 hours. So almost 2/3 of the time.
Yeah. So
allowed.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, and it's one of those things where you hear about it and you think, 108 to 110 miles in 60 hours. You're like, oh yeah, it's less than 2 miles an hour, yeah. And then the reality of the conditions are that is really, really impressive to do. Do you know what I mean?
Standing outside. Being out there. Yeah,
that's the thing. And it's great seeing the people kind of, like, every single person who's finished any of the spine races, just like absolute kudos, because it's a challenging race, like at all parts of it. And people are out for longer. I think that was the thing for me. I was like, it's great, I can finish second night, go home, go to bed. But like, there's still people racing, and you're really aware of that. Like, you wake up in the morning, like checking the dots, like, I hope they do it.
Was there any of that on your front, or were you just head down, keep going?
What, in terms of?
Checking where other people were? Was that once you'd reached a checkpoint or something?
So I didn't, because I don't want to know where I am in the field.
Yeah.
I find because what's it going to change? Because it's like what I'm going to do is realise that either someone is just behind me and I can't go any faster because I'm going as fast as I can, or there's no one behind me. What am I going to do? Slow down? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, is it going to change a decision I'm going to make? Probably not. And especially, I did the Hardwolds 80. Yeah, and that has one turnaround towards the end, and I wasn't watching the tracker at all during that either.
A turnaround?
Yeah, like you go to the end and kind of have to touch the sign and then turn around and come back along the front in Filey.
Oh, okay.
And it's the only time you see where you are, like in the field, because there's like a mile where you come back. And I turned around and I was in second, and I just found that out because the person at the end went, "You're in second." I was like, "Great."
Oh,
I
wow.
turned around and there was 3 women right behind me. And I was like, and I had to basically, I didn't have to, but that was the only point where I was like, you know what, actually, I would really hate to lose that in like the last basically 2 miles of this. That would be so annoying.
Yeah.
So I basically had to, sprint down like Filey Brig front, which is horrible, especially when you're like, I'm really going for it, and then you look back and it's 15-minute miles. But I was like, absolutely did it.
And they would have seen you sprint once you turned around. They would have seen you sprinting back.
Exactly.
Were
So
any
they
of them
know
chasing?
where you are. No, I mean, I think there was quite a chase for third actually, but they were only like 5 minutes behind me, and I was just like, I don't want that again. Like, honestly, on the Spine Challenger, if I was like, if someone catches me up, they deserve it. And you just having that thing where you're
because
like,
they will have been
fine.
chasing.
Exactly.
You're
it's
kind
fine.
of mindlessly just happy-go-lucky going along.
Exactly. I'm putting my best effort in.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. You can't race it. This is my run your own race thing.
Yeah.
Like you cannot. I don't know. I couldn't get that mentality for that long. Aside from anything else, like how would you retain that? I don't know.
It must. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it does affect a lot of people, that kind of thing. But like at this sort of distance,
you just can't maintain it. It'll just burn you out. So yeah, I think it's absolutely run your own race. And because the dropout rate is so high, you might be chasing someone who drops out, and then what do you do?
Yeah, or you might be chasing someone, and in that chase, you take yourself out. By
Absolutely.
going, not looking where you're going, or just conking out, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so easy to just run out of energy. You kind of, because as soon as you start focusing on something else, like someone else, you're not going to be focusing on, should I have been eating now? Should I get another layer out? Should I, sort
Just
myself
chasing
out?
that red dot in the distance.
Exactly.
I think that red dot's getting closer.
Is it real?
Yeah.
What?
I remember doing the sprint, and there was a point where I was chasing this red dot in the distance. It was at Steedley Pike on the sprint.
Oh, yeah, so, okay, yeah.
And I thought, I got this guy. But I didn't know if he was doing the Challenger or the sprint.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out he was doing the Challenger, of course he was.
Oh, no.
And I thought, I've just sort of wasted all that effort just to chase down someone who's not racing the same race as me.
I mean, that feels like a metaphor somehow.
But I mean, part of it was also I'm close. At least I'm closer to Hebden. At least I'm closer to Hebden Bridge now, and glad to do that. But
I think that's the thing. I think if I have a slight rule, which is like, don't do any of the like stupid running bits like until the last 10 miles. And if you get to the last 10 miles and you're like, you know what, I've got the energy and I can do it. I can do it. Yeah,
easy.
Fine.
3 hours, easy.
Exactly. Yeah. And that basically has never happened. But in my mind, there's always that point of like, that's when you can do the like daft thing. But up to that point, don't risk it.
I'm imagining, in terms of footwear, I'm imagining something quite heavy. Like, was it a heavy shoe or?
I did Hocker Speed Goats.
So you were in trainers?
Yeah, I like running in them. So I had very thick waterproof socks. So I had to go up a size in my trainers. But I had very thick waterproof socks and just Hocker Speed Goats, which I know there's so much chat on that Facebook group about what's the right shoes.
I had to leave the Facebook group. I had to leave the Spine's Facebook group. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could.
Too much. I feel sorry for the organizer constantly just laying down the law. Oh, I've got like some.
It's the hypothetical kit question.
Do I need poles? Do I need goggles? Do I need a knife?
Do I need a sleeping bag?
Yeah. Do I really need it? I'm not planning on sleeping.
Yeah, and so it was those chains where people were like, "Oh, don't wear Hocker Speed Goats." I was like, "It's too late. I've trained in it."
And also, like, sod off.
But it was that kind of thing where I was like, I own walking boots, but they're the ones that actually I'm most comfortable in doing what I was doing. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to let that psych me out. And actually they worked. They were fine. They're not that grippy in mud. I did go over on my backside, but...
Sideways.
Yeah, well, exactly. Many different
I slipped in some Speed Goats today
because
they have zero sideways grip.
Yes.
Front to back, lovely. Vibram soles, beautiful, great. Get in some mud and on any sort of camber, and you go
That's a good point.
sideways.
Yeah. It will take you in many directions.
And that's ultra as well. The ultra are guilty for that as well.
Oh, okay, that's good to know, because that's the other one I was going to look at.
Yeah, Saucony peregrines, ogre speed goats, and the what are they called? The ultra. What are they called? Falcon or something?
Yeah.
Something stupid.
They all have really unmemorable
Mythical beasts.
Those things. Yeah.
The ultra shoes that I'm talking about are the ultra superiors, of course.
Sort your sideways grip out. What's going on?
Yeah, they need to just put something else in there. So they were fine actually. I mean, it's just that's what I would tend to wear for ultras. To be honest, I'd wear speed goats or challengers, or probably innovates if it had been slightly rockier, but it wasn't rocky enough. Like that.
It's a very muddy.
Yeah. It was
all of the bit I knew is but like wet rock and innovate or anything, even Vibram sole on rock is marvelous.
Yeah, it's great. Really nice.
Yeah, on rock, lovely, but mud, nothing helps, does it?
Well, the things that would help for mud won't have the cushion that I need for the distance.
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of balance that out.
You can't wear spikes, can you?
No, I mean I obviously had the micro spikes for ice, but and at a certain point I did think, I wonder if these work in mud, and I just thought, no, that's ridiculous.
It's oh,
your ring light's gone.
Has it gone or is it just given up? What's going on here?
Sure it has.
Thanks, Amazon. Shouldn't be buying it off Amazon, but it was £20. And maybe if you subscribe to this podcast, I might be able to afford a better ring light.
Please subscribe. Need the lights.
Patreon page. That's what I should be plugging, really.
I like the idea of that. If you get a Patreon, I will start lighting my videos.
Well, that's my target.
That's good. Okay,
we'll
so
get
that's what I'm aiming for.
more. The quality will go up if the number of subscribers go up.
Fair,
the number of supporters go up. That's how it works. It's all going to be regurgitated back into itself.
Excellent.
Yeah. So tell me about the checkpoints.
Yeah. So there's only one official checkpoint on the Spine Challenger. So you're doing 108 miles and you've got about 46, 47 miles like we were discussing in Hebden Hay. You actually stop and there's a proper official checkpoint. So there are some mountain rescue stations which are kind of out in the elements, but this is the first time you actually get your drop bag and the only time you get your drop bag. So that's you're allowed up to 20 kilograms of stuff to kind of help you on the second part of the course. So that could be more food, change of clothes, new waterproofs.
More gloves.
More gloves. I did actually have more gloves. You never know. All of them failed. Anyway, I'm not gonna moan about my gloves anymore. All my family have heard this. I'm like, 10 pairs, they all went through. Anyway, but what was great about that is I hadn't experienced the kind of spine experience before, where like someone came and like brought me my bag, and like they take off your shoes and they put tags on the shoes and put them to one side. So top tip, if you're doing anything with the checkpoint, get some slippers, because otherwise...
In fact, it was one of the few photos you share, right?
I shared
I'll put these photos, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put the photos up.
Do go to my Instagram, you see excellent things of what I ate and my slippers.
What you ate, you eating, and slippers.
Yeah, I like to put the really important pictures up. So, but like that
I saw them as I came in on the door.
Yeah,
I've seen these before.
Yeah, I like to have them. So it's kind of things like that which I hadn't really occurred to me would be important, but actually turned out to be really handy. And actually, that was another shout out that I wanted to give, which was Ashok Gurung, who was the person who helped me at the checkpoint. So you get like allocated a person, which is incredible. Like having done ultras before, where it's just like you pick up a handful of jelly babies and get on with it. You have someone who's kind of gets your bag and checks you've got everything. It was great.
Wow.
So yeah, highly impressed by that. Amazing organisation. Like to have that support. And,
one-on-one.
Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
And so then you go sit down, have some nice soup, and kind of get warm, waste lots of time faffing, and then kind of carry on into the night. But that was a really interesting experience, just because I've never had that before, where it feels like that kind of checkpoint that's a full let's get you sorted kind of checkpoint, as opposed to just it's functional. So that was quite interesting.
So there's a mega question now. How long does Alice Kershaw, second in the Spine Challenger, wait at the aid station?
I am usually quite fast through aid stations, I'll be honest. But for this particular race, I took my time in a way that I have never done before, because I just thought I need to make sure I've got everything. I had a list of everything on my phone. Like loads of people have said, print it out and laminate it. That's definitely better advice than keep it on your phone and try and find it. But I kept like a list of like, you know, I was going to change my clothes, I was going to get new waterproofs, I was going to update my food, you know, make sure I take out the old food, put in the new food, make sure I'd updated my bottles with actual, you know, powders in them rather than just like water. So, you know, things like that. So I was kind of prepared for it. So probably I spent about 45 minutes to an hour at the checkpoint, like having a sit, changing everything, eating food, but absolutely did not feel like it was wasted because as soon as I was ready, I was off and out again. But it was definitely a lot more like if I'm going to a checkpoint normally, I would just literally pick up some food and go. Yeah. So it was quite different.
And you arrived at Hebden at what time?
I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe about 9:30.
In the evening.
In the evening.
And you were fully convinced to yourself that you were going to walk through the night.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. No, that wasn't something I was in doubt about.
Yeah. I mean, and that's common in the Challenger, or is less common?
I would say it's pretty common. I think you can stay in the checkpoints, but you can't stay long enough. You can probably stay up to about, I think it's 6 hours, but I might be wrong. Okay. So you can't stay long enough to avoid walking in the night. Yeah. Like you are going to be out there in the dark at some point, realistically. I think there'd maybe be a case for it if it had been particularly horrible and you're coming in at the point where you could stay and then it'd be light. But
and then if you know the forecast might brighten up in 3 hours' time.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas, you know, we were leaving and they were going, oh, it might brighten up by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And you were like...
when the sun rises.
Yeah, exactly, basically. Yeah. And they were right, it did. Like, it just rained and hailed and was in your face constantly for 24 hours. And then actually at like 8 o'clock, there was some moments of calm, which I've never appreciated so much, it not raining.
Yeah. And that probably really spurred you on.
It's great. Yeah.
The second half, really.
Yeah, when you get that kind of, you get that light and you get that thing where people go, oh, in the morning of an ultra and the light comes and you get your energy back. And you kind of think it's like some kind of miraculous thing. I mean, it's not like, oh, wow, I have loads of energy. It's just like, oh, I have slightly more energy and my brain is tricked into not trying to go to sleep. Yeah.
I've got 6 hours now to do as much work as I can to not have to do that again. Yeah,
basically, yes. Yeah. So it's not quite what you get sold with that, and I always find that fascinating. Like I do actually really like that bit of an overnight where you're coming into the morning. There's something really it's really beautiful.
I'm yet to experience it.
Oh, you should.
I'm yet to experience it. The closest I've got is obviously starting a race at 5 in the morning. Where you spend half an hour with the head torch on and something. So unfortunately, I'm just leaving Alice's now, but we realised that the recorder did stop without us noticing for a while, and we did miss a couple of things. One of the things we were talking about that we're worried that didn't get recorded was talking about the hallucinations on the Spine Challenger. So, Alice, anything you can add about that? Yeah. It sounds like you did because you were very excited to tell me.
No, it's just one of those questions that people always kind of ask about is around hallucinations. And there was one point where I thought I'd started hallucinating, and it turns out someone had actually drawn a smiley face on a rock. So I was on Fountains Fell, and I was like, oh, this is quite early to start to be seeing things. But the other one was when I was heading over in the night time, and I'd been running on the moor for about, 4 hours or something, and got to a road. But in my mind, I could not work out what it was. It was totally out of context. The white lines I thought was a fence. So I kept...
The white lines on the road?
Yeah, I thought the white lines on the road were actually kind of 3D and right ahead of me. And something in my brain was just not allowing me to see that it was a flat thing. I must have looked absolutely
Sorry, you were
crazy.
On the road?
Yeah, so I was about to cross it. I came straight off the moor, and like as you see the white lines ahead of it, I was trying to step over them, like really dramatic steps over these white lines, because I was convinced I was going to trip over them because I thought they were sticking up. And that was definitely a point where it all came into like gear, and I was like, it's a road, you absolute idiot. It was like, and it was fine after that.
Did you feel like you wanted to go back and just step on it?
It was really weird. So it wasn't a full hallucination by any means, but it was definitely a point where my brain was not quite as compos mentis as I usually am. So that was definitely an experience I have not had before.
Wow. And just let's quickly roll over those things that we might have missed out on, which was what you were planning to do this summer.
That's good. I could just deny ever saying it.
Yeah.
So my next challenge is hopefully going to be picking up the full summer spine. So that'll be something I'm working up to. Well, my training starts next week for that. So I'll be doing lots of long walks.
No rest for the wicked.
No. Oh,
In fact, I saw
love
you in
it.
the bloody start list for the Harrogate Hustle.
I am doing Harrogate. It's a great route. I really like that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, the Punk Panther one. I'm not going to be doing as many Punk Panthers as last year, where I've got the season thing there. But I still really like their races. They're really close by. It's a great organisation. So it was one I kind of thought, it'd be fun to do a couple of them. So I've just signed up for that one. Although I am considering signing up for the Dales Highway as well as part of a bit of spine training.
Is this the 90 mile?
It is the 90 mile. Although Rick keeps telling me that there's a 104 mile option where you get to add it onto the end, and at the moment that doesn't sound that appealing to me. If I'm totally honest, I quite like
That's
it.
14 miles.
Yeah, 40 miles up,
It's
hike
half
up,
marathon.
Nick, and back as well. So it's
Wow.
not just 14 miles. It's 14 miles onto a bit of the Pennine Way and back. So I'm still undecided exactly which one of those I'm going to go for, but I think probably just the 90 miler at the moment is looking more appealing.
And then they'll ask you at the end, do you want to do these?
I know,
40?
yeah.
You'll have to know before you start, won't you?
Yeah,
You're gonna
exactly.
do that.
I think well, like I say, I haven't signed up yet, but that's definitely one. Just because the route looks really nice, and it goes from here, it goes from Saltaire to Appleby, so it feels a bit daft. Not
Is this where it starts?
Yeah, it starts just in Saltaire.
Oh, sign me up. When's that?
That's it's in May. It's one of them. I think it's towards the end of May. So
Yeah, that's 2 weeks after your Ultra Trail Snowdonia.
Is it? That'll be fine. Just think of that as a training
Maybe
route.
I'll volunteer.
Just
I've left a lot of May out open for various other things outside of running that I figured that might be more fun.
Nice. Well, Ultra Trail, the Snowdonia will be amazing as
Yeah.
well, though. Are you collecting stones?
I suppose. So that was about 4/5 of my conversation with Alice Kershaw. Podcasting is brand new medium for me, and I'm definitely learning as I go along. Maybe using a GoPro to record the video when it's so susceptible to overheating and corrupting my files is not advisable. A few things we failed to get on tape were a brief conversation about Alice's foray into backyard ultras. We also went into a little more detail about her spine kit before talking about the latter stages of the Challenger, and of course how she felt at the end. Of course, a huge congratulations to Sarah Hodgson, who won the race, and all the other runners who took part in all of the spine races. We did speak about coming on again, so we can cover that next time, perhaps after Alice has smashed the summer spine. I will post links to Alice's Instagram so you can go check out her adventures on Instagram, but it's pretty easy, it's alice.kershaw. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, please make sure you follow this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, or subscribe and click the bell if you're tuning in on YouTube. You can follow Great Owl Running on Instagram at Great Owl Running, and all links to all other social media platforms can be found at greatowlrunning.com. Great Owl Running is a YouTube channel covering trail, fell and ultra distance races, and also a race organiser. The next race we have coming up is the Holly Hustle in Leeds in March. I'm genuinely so glad to be able to share these stories of some of the most inspirational people I know, and that I have this platform to share with you. We continue to build this wonderful space, and I have my Great Owl Running Patreon supporters to thank for their contribution to the development of Great Owl Running. They are Angeline Dresser, Claire Evans, Dan Marsh, Dominic Harris, Gregory Skelton, Ian Furlong, Liz Adams, Siobhan McLarnon, Simon Francis Snade, Sonny Chima, Vernon Long, David Leslie, Gwyneth Snade, Jane Prust, Tom Thomas, Alexandra Potts, Andy Norman, Christopher Pawson, Danny Bryant, Ellen Lee Loundress, Frankie Bell, Gareth Sherratt, Jacqueline Elmer, Jane, Jessica Friend, Joe Owen, Keith Smith, Mandy Clark, Mark Phillipson, Matthew Cook, Mick Oliver, Mick Tinker, Mike Hewitt, Richard Edwards, Rob Riley, Rowan Temple, Sarah Norman, Shauna Corrigan, Stephen Morris and Tom Barrett. Thank you so much for helping Great Owl Running grow. Right, that's it for this time. We will see you soon. Goodbye.